Welcome to Forge College. All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Designing inheritance hierarchies for reuse. So if you were with us for the last lesson in our Solidity from Zero track, you remember we got deep into the pure mechanics of the super keyword and C3 inheritance linearization. We know how the cogs and wheels turn, right? Well, today, we're shifting gears. We're taking those mechanics and learning how to use them elegantly to design smart contract inheritance hierarchies for absolute maximum code reuse. Now, you might be wondering, why the sudden shift from mechanics to design? Well, look, you know how to use super, and you know how linearization resolves overriding conflicts. But here's the practical catch. If you just throw all your logic into one giant contract simply because you can, your smart contract machine is going to become a tangled, unmaintainable mess. It's kind of like a spaghetti-wired fuse box that you definitely do not want to touch without rubber gloves. Knowing how a wire works isn't the same as wiring a house safely, you know? We need to move from just holding the tools to actually drafting a clean, modular blueprint.
So, here's our agenda for today. First, we'll cover the architecture of reuse. Second, base and utility blueprints. Third, assembling the derived contract. Fourth, the runtime checklist. And finally, prepping for interfaces. Let's get to it.
Section 1, the architecture of reuse, building the blueprints.
Okay, time to step up to the drafting table. Blindly copy-pasting code across your smart contracts? Yeah, that's a bit like building 3 identical houses on the exact same block just because you want them to share one refrigerator. I mean, it's wildly inefficient and super prone to errors. What we actually want is to move away from that messy, duplicated architecture and toward a really clean, single responsibility setup. We have to intentionally place shared functionality exactly where it belongs so we literally never have to write the same logic twice. So our very first essential building block in this clean new architecture is the base contract. Think of this as your primary foundational blueprint. It encapsulates a single responsibility, holding your shared state variables, like say an integer counter, and the core canonical logic that updates it. This is the solid bedrock that your other more complex contracts are going to build upon. Next up on the drafting board is the utility base. This is a totally separate, specialized scaffolding where we tuck away helper utilities. Let's say you have a validation check, right? Something that ensures a number isn't 0 before a transaction proceeds. Instead of pasting that same require statement into every single contract, you just drop it in an isolated utility base. That way, multiple derived contracts can pull from this one single source of truth. It's a real game changer for keeping things tidy. And finally, we have the derived contract. This is the final assembly line of our machine. It brings the bases together, orchestrating and refining the logic. It inherits the state and the tools, and uses those inheritance hooks to customize behavior, all without duplicating a single byte of storage or logic from the base levels below it. Pretty slick, right? All right, moving right along to Section 2, Base and Utility Blueprints, drafting the core components. Here is our step-by-step construction plan for our mini project. First up, we scaffold isolated files. We'll create separate Solidity files for base, utils base, and our derived feature contract. Keeping your workspace physically separated into files enforces mental separation. And trust me, it keeps your future self from crying when you're trying to debug later. Second, we implement our single responsibility basis. And third, we set our explicit inheritance order so the compiler knows exactly how to build the hierarchy. In practice, this separation is incredibly satisfying. By isolating the state, so our integer counter and the core incrementing function in the base contract, and tucking our validate non-zero helper logic over in the utils base, we ensure each piece of our machine does exactly one job. If our validation rules need to change down the line, we only have to change them in one place. Boom, done. Section 3. Assembling the derived contract, putting the pieces together.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how the derived contract acts purely as an orchestrator. Our feature contract inherits from both base and utils base explicitly. It overrides the increment function, but notice what it actually doesn't do. It doesn't rewrite the increment math. Instead, it just calls the validation hook from utils base and then explicitly calls super.increment to trigger the base logic.
And this brilliantly illustrates the deterministic flow of data that Solidity's C3 linearization gives us. When someone calls increment on our derived contract, the timeline triggers perfectly in sequence. First, the validation check runs to make absolutely sure everything is safe. Second, the base state increments exactly as designed. Third, the event is safely emitted from the base. So the derived hook fires first, safely routing back down into the foundational base behavior. Honestly, it's like watching a perfectly tuned clock ticking.
Section 4. The runtime checklist, quality assurance.
An engineer never ships a machine without testing it, right? So this spec sheet maps out exactly what a successful, reusable inheritance hierarchy has to achieve. First, it absolutely must compile cleanly, no warnings, and definitely no ambiguous linearization errors. Second, we must verify inherited behavior. We have to test that our supercalls are actually routing exactly where we think they are. And third, minimal duplication. If we spot identical logic in two places, well, we failed the design test and need to head right back to the drafting board.
Let's break those high-level goals down into actionable checks. Check A. Does it compile cleanly together? Check B. If our bases have constructors, are those arguments routing correctly on deployment? Check C. Is the base behavior preserved? Like, if we call increment on the deployed derived contract, we better see that state change and event fire from the base. Otherwise, our supercall is just broken. And check D verifies that our override chaining order precisely matches our explicit inheritance declarations.
Moving on to our final checks. Check E is a manual review for duplicated logic or re-implemented validations. If you see two require statements doing the exact same thing in two different derived contracts, refactor them into your utils base. Finally, check F ensures our public surface area is lean and clean. We want a small handful of public functions, ideally fewer than 8, and absolutely 0 internal helpers exposed. Why are we so strict about this? Well, because of what's coming next.
Which brings us to Section 5, Prepping for Interfaces, Future-Proofing.
By strictly isolating our internal implementation details, like that validate non-zero helper, we leave only a smooth, stable public surface area exposed to the outside world. We want our external function names like getCounter and increment to be set in stone. This public API is exactly what other developers and other smart contracts are going to interact with.
So, our ultimate takeaway is this. Use super as a tool for composition, not as a substitute for good structure. Actually, think of it like this. The super keyword is just the plumbing. It simply routes the water. But a well-organized architecture, putting the sinks and pipes in the right, logical rooms, is what actually makes your code reusable, scalable, and robust.
Okay, our blueprint is officially verified. We've built a hierarchy that minimizes duplication, enforces single responsibility, and safely uses C3 linearization to trigger expected events. And you know what the best part is? The exact contracts we just designed will be used in our next lesson in the Solidity from Zero track, Understanding Solidity Interfaces, where we take this beautiful public API we just crafted and formally extract it.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Look at your own code and ask yourself, is your contract boundary clean enough to become an impenetrable interface? Really think about how your own blueprints hold up to our runtime checklist. To dive deeper into this, practice your skills, and explore other fascinating Web3 topics, be sure to visit us at Forge College. I've had an absolute blast guiding you through this architectural journey today, and I will see you in the next explainer.